In 1984, a 9-year-old boy vanished without a trace from a roadside motel in northern Nevada. No forced entry, no signs of struggle, just a tape recorder and an empty bed. Almost 40 years later, a true crime podcaster checks into the same room and hears something in the walls that was never meant to be heard. What he uncovers leads to one of the most disturbing unsolved child disappearances in Nevada history. Subscribe for more true stories that were buried until now. Date: October 13th, 1984. Location: Willow Pines Motel, room 104. 9-year-old Benny Langridge disappears in the night while on a road trip with his mother. She had stepped outside to take a phone call from her ex. When she returned, the window was open. The tape recorder she used to calm Benny's anxiety was still spinning, and her son was gone. Police combed the area, but no fingerprints, no footprints, no evidence. The case went cold, except for one odd detail. The motel manager never reported the broken vent in room 104, August 4th, 2023. Willow Pines Motel, Elko County, Nevada, 8:12 p.m. The Willow Pines sign buzzed faintly in the heat, half-lit, its neon pine tree flickering in the violet dusk. Moths danced in slow chaos around it, drawn to a light that had outlasted most of the guests who'd ever stayed beneath it. Tyler Graves pulled into the gravel lot, the crunch under his tires sharp in the still air. The motel looked like something out of a photograph yellowed by time, U-shaped, stucco-skinned, single-story, with door numbers painted in rust-colored stencils. Room 104 sat in the far corner, beneath a warped awning and a flickering porch bulb that looked like it was trying to blink itself out of existence. He killed the engine. The hum of his podcast recorder, still running in the passenger seat, ticked softly. A red light blinked. He let it keep going. "Okay," he muttered to himself, pulling out his notebook. "Elko County, Willow Pines Motel, room 104. Check in for field recording. Benny Langridge disappearance, 1984. Let's see what's left." He stepped out into the heat. Even as the sun dipped below the horizon, the air clung to him, dry, ancient, and still holding the memory of the day's 100-degree swelter. Inside the office, a bell jingled as he pushed the door open. A wall-mounted box fan rattled in the corner, blowing stale air into a space that smelled like dust, pine sol, and coffee that had died hours ago. The man behind the counter looked up from a paperback western. Late 60s, tan, leathery skin, one lazy eye. He wore a motel-branded polo like it was a punishment. "You Tyler Graves?" he asked without standing. Tyler nodded and offered a hand. "Thanks for letting me stay in 104. I know it's a weird request." The man ignored his hand. "Room's clean. Don't go poking holes in the walls or lifting floorboards. I don't care if you're press, ghost hunter, or FBI. I got nothing to hide, but I got nothing to give either." Tyler smiled politely, accepting the key. An old-fashioned brass one on a triangular red tag. "Understood. I'm just here to record. No damage, no drama." The man snorted. "Drama's already in the walls, son." Tyler turned, that last sentence hanging in the air like the scent of mildew. A woman, early 70s, gray hair pulled into a bun, was leaning against the office door frame, smoking a cigarette down to the filter. She gave him a thin smile. "You're here for the Langridge boy, aren't you?" she asked. "That little thing that went missing from 104. Tyler paused. "Yes, ma'am, for my podcast." The woman nodded, taking a long drag. "I stayed in that room the night after it happened. Could still feel the cold in the sheets. Like the boy never really left." Tyler stepped into room 104 just before 8:30. He stood in the doorway for a long moment before crossing the threshold. He didn't unpack, just set his duffel on the chair by the window and powered on his audio kit. The walls absorbed sound strangely. Not echoey, not dead. Something in between. He stood still, letting the room breathe. The layout was simple. One queen bed. A 2-drawer nightstand. An old air conditioning unit embedded in the wall. A low dresser with a bolted-down TV. The curtains were tan and heavy, like they hadn't been washed since the Reagan administration. And in the far corner, something odd. A discolored patch on the wall, high up near the ceiling, where an old vent cover sat crooked, the screws mismatched. Tyler walked over, squinting. He clicked his recorder back on. Tape. Recording begins. Room 104. Log, August 4th, 2023. Standing in northwest corner of room 104. Visible wall vent, original to building, likely from 1970s HVAC install. Surface surrounding it appears lighter. Repainted? Replaced? Possibly sealed at some point. He tapped the vent gently with his knuckle. It made a hollow, muffled thump, like there was space behind it. Then he paused. There it was. Faint. Just under the hum of the AC. A sound not natural to the room. Click, whir, stop. It repeated. Then again. A small mechanical rhythm, like a motor trying to start but failing. Tyler's skin prickled. He stood on the edge of the bed, hands gripping the top of the dresser for balance, and leaned closer. He pressed his ear to the vent. Click, whir, click. And then, just barely, a child's voice, whispering something he couldn't make out. He jerked back. The recorder slipped from his hand, hit the floor with a thud. Tyler's heart pounded in his throat. He crouched, scooping up the device. The red light still blinked, still rolling. He replayed the last 15 seconds through headphones. Click. Whir. A pause. Then, a child's voice. He says, "Don't tell you." Back in his car, Tyler sat in the driver's seat with the door open, notebook in hand, recorder in lap, and the dusk thickening around him. He spoke softly, as if not to disturb something. Tape, filed note. Day 1, 9:17 p.m. I may have found the first real lead in the Benny language disappearance in nearly 40 years. There is something inside the wall vent in room 104. A mechanical sound. And a voice. I swear to God, a voice. I'm going to open it up. He looked at the vent again from the parking lot. A warm wind blew through the dry weeds near the office sign. Insects buzzed in the motel light. The world felt tilted. Tyler stood. He was going back in. Tomorrow he'd ask the manager if anyone had ever removed the vent cover. But tonight, he'd bring his tools. Because whatever was hidden behind that wall hadn't been heard since 1984. And someone, was still trying to speak. August 4th, 2023. Willow Pines Motel, room 104, 10:14 p.m. The vent came off easier than it should have. Tyler had waited until full dark. He didn't want questions from the manager or from the elderly woman who seemed to drift around the lot like she'd never left 1984. Now, kneeling on the bed with a flashlight clenched between his teeth, he unscrewed the last rusty fastener. The vent cover groaned, then fell loose in his hand, leaving behind a black void just wide enough for his forearm. The smell hit him first. Dust. Metal. A dry, musty scent, like a forgotten attic or the inside of an old radio. He slipped his hand inside. Something brushed his fingertips. Sharp edges, corners, plastic casing. Tyler's breath caught. He pulled gently, feeling resistance, something tangled in wires or insulation. A tug, a twist. Then it came free with a soft, scraping sound. He held it up to the flashlight beam. A cassette tape. The label was peeling and yellowed, but 2 words were written in faint marker. Room 104, do not erase. His hands trembled slightly. He turned it over. The reels inside were intact, though the tape was warped with age. No cracks in the casing, no mold. It had survived. Tyler slid off the bed, grabbed his field recorder, and inserted the tape. This wasn't the type of find you took back to a studio. You listened where it was meant to be heard. He hit play. Click, whir, static. Then, a voice. At first, it was low and muffled, almost unintelligible. But as Tyler adjusted the EQ settings on his recorder, the audio took shape. Audio log. Begins. Tape recovered from room 104. Child's voice. It's cold. I want the nightlight on. Man's voice. Calm, whispering. You remember what we said about that, Benny? The night is just pretend. There's no light in pretend. Child's voice. Hesitant. Can I have my book? Man. We don't read in the princess room. You know the rules. Tyler sat motionless, headphones pressed to his ears, fingers digging into the edge of the nightstand. The voice was unmistakably a man's. Software measured, practiced. The child's voice, young, male, with a slight lisp, matched what he'd heard in old recordings of Benny language released by his mother in a 1998 press interview. Man. Now say it again, Benny. Child, murmuring. This isn't real. The night is pretend. Man. Good boy. Say it louder. Child. This isn't real. The night is pretend. This isn't real. The voice wavered. Breathing picked up. Tyler felt nausea twist in his stomach. This wasn't a bedtime tape. This was scripting, repetition, conditioning, and the phrase, princess room, echoed with something worse. Benny had been a boy. Why call it that? He fast-forwarded. More static. Then a click. A different voice. Older, almost amused. Second man, unidentified. You're recording these now? First man. In case he forgets. Sometimes he pretends to forget. Second man. That's risky. First man. Not if you hide them right. I'll put this one behind the vent. Behind the vent. Tyler hit pause. The room was completely silent now. Even the air conditioner had gone quiet, as if the entire motel were holding its breath. He replayed that last line again and again. I'll put this one behind the vent. They weren't just using the room. They were hiding in it, recording in it, rehearsing something, and someone else had been involved. Another adult, another voice. That meant it wasn't just a one-off crime. It was a network, or at least a partnership. Tyler took notes, hands still shaking. Tape contains Benny's voice, through age 9. Princess room, possible term for abuse control space. References to conditioning phrases. Adult male voice, calm and measured. Possibly pastor, teacher. Another male voice heard. Mid-tape, concerns about recording. He shut the tape off. The recorder ticked down into silence. Then he opened his laptop and typed one sentence into the episode script draft. Someone recorded Benny Langridge's captivity. And they left the evidence inside the room he vanished from, 1:12 a.m. Tyler sat in bed, unable to sleep. His phone buzzed, an alert from his podcast Patreon inbox. A listener had responded to his pre-episode teaser he'd posted hours earlier. Are you still in Elko County? Because if you are, go check room 1052. I stayed there in '99. There's something in the wall between. User. Before you. Wake 88. He stared at the message, pulse quickening. There were stories. He'd read them years ago in obscure forums, about kids waking up in motel rooms in the 80s and 90s with no memory of how they got there. One case in Utah, another in Arizona. Different motels. Same layout, same vent placement, same whispering heard through the wall. He looked at the corner of the room again. The vent, now wide open, stared back at him like a mouth. And in the floor beneath it, the shadows seemed deeper than they should have been. You remember what we said about that, Benny. The night is just pretend. Tyler shivered. This wasn't a ghost story. It was something worse. August 5th, 2023. Willow Pines Motel, Elko County, Nevada, 7:24 a.m. Tyler hadn't slept. The cassette player sat on the dresser, lid open. The tape rewound to the beginning like a loaded weapon. He kept thinking of the phrase, "The night is pretend," and the way the man's voice seemed rehearsed, like someone reading lines from a twisted play. He'd uploaded a clipped sample of the tape to his private backup server at 4:12 a.m., just in case. One copy went to an encrypted folder, another to an auto-email draft. It wasn't paranoia. Not anymore. At sunrise, he walked the 30 feet to the front office, coffee in hand and dark circles under his eyes. The same man sat behind the desk, reading a paperback western. "Morning," Tyler said. "Listen, I was hoping you had any old records for the motel. Guest books, registries, anything from the 80s? The man didn't look up. "You trying to solve it?" Tyler blinked. "Excuse me?" "The boy. Room 104. That's why you're here, right? You think you're going to crack it wide open with your podcast?" "I don't know," Tyler said carefully. "I just want to find what the police missed." The man sighed, marked his page, and stood. "Come round back. I'll show you what's left." The back room smelled like mildew and oil. Stacks of ledger books were piled against one wall, warped from moisture. A steel cabinet sat half open, full of boxes labeled in faded Sharpie. The manager ran his hand along the spines. "My father kept everything, even after computers showed up." He pulled a dusty binder from 1984. "You want room 104? Start with October." Tyler sat at the folding table and opened the book. "October 13th, 1984. Room 104. Registered to Mr. A. Shepard. Paid in cash. 2 nights. No address listed." Benny Langridge had vanished that night. Tyler flipped back one page. "October 12th. Room 104. John H. Mills. Cash. 1 night. Next page. October 14th. Room 104. Unoccupied. Police hold. Then, October 16th, room 104, A. Shepard. Again. He traced the loops in the signature. Same handwriting, same name, same room. 3 days after Benny vanished. Tyler's throat went dry. "Can I make a few photocopies?" he asked. "Machine's busted," the manager said. "But I don't care if you take photos." Tyler snapped images quickly, labeling each in his phone. Then he had a thought. He pulled books from earlier in the year. May, June, July. Each month had at least one entry for room 104 rented to either A. Shepard, J. Mills, or G. Harmon. Always male names, always cash, always 104. Sometimes it was a single night, sometimes 2. He started a list. January 22nd, G. Harmon, March 11th, A. Shepard, May 3rd, J. Mills, July 19th, G. Harmon, October 13th, A. Shepard, Benny's night. A pattern, 3 aliases, all the same handwriting, all tied to the same room, and each visit spaced about 6 to 8 weeks apart. This wasn't random, this was ritual. Back in room 104, Tyler pinned the registry photos on his corkboard. Then he opened an old case file spreadsheet he'd compiled over the years. Missing minors, Western states, 1980 to 1986. He scanned for disappearances that aligned with the names and dates. 2 jumped out immediately. Carrie Landers, age 8, disappeared July 21st, 1984. Ely, Nevada. Michael Deal, age 7, vanished May 4th, 1984. 1984, Wells, Nevada. Both within 100 miles of Elko, both within 24 hours of the room 104 registry dates. His fingers trembled as he checked one more entry. March 12th, 1984, registry, A. Shepard. March 13th, 1984, missing, Haley Cruz, age 9, Battle Mountain. It wasn't just Benny. It never had been. 11:03 a.m. Tyler sat on the edge of the bed, recorder in hand. Tape log, Motel Registry Entry Summary. Cross-referencing room rental data with regional missing children cases from 1984 confirms at least 3 strong correlations. A shepherd signs into room 104, Elko. A child vanishes in a nearby town within 24 hours. All names traced to same handwriting. This isn't random. Room 104 wasn't just the scene of one crime. It was part of a system. He paused, looking at the vent again. And that system had a name. 3, actually. Shepherd, Mills, Harmon. 3 wolves in rotation. 3 masks for one monster, or 3 monsters sharing the same room. 2:45 p.m. Elko County Library. Tyler met with an archivist in the local history section. A younger woman with a ponytail and a badge that read Mira. She showed him a file labeled Willow Pines, Permits and Incidents. It was mostly building permits, inspections, and faded microfilm printouts. Then something caught Tyler's eye. 1982 permit for structural wall repair, room 104. Filed by Paul Harkner. He blinked. The name hit like a stone in the gut. Paul Harkner, the youth pastor from Camp Reverence in Spring Creek. Died in 1995. Mysterious hiking accident. Multiple former campers later reported emotional abuse. No charges ever filed. But Tyler had heard his name before. In the second voice on the tape. He was sure of it. "You're recording these now?" "Not if you hide them right. I'll put this one behind the vent." And Harkner had filed a repair permit under his real name. Arrogant or confident? Maybe both. Tyler turned to Mira. "Do you have any photographs of Harkner from the 80s? She nodded slowly, suspicious. "Why?" "Because I think he was here, a lot." 5:17 p.m. Back at the motel, Tyler sat in his car, staring at the vent. The aliases, the registry trail, the children, all circling one room. The tape was no longer just a clue. It was a confession sealed in analog, hidden behind drywall, waiting almost 40 years to be heard. And now, the name Paul Harkner had surfaced. The wall wasn't just structural. It was a boundary between truth and the horror no one wanted to see. August 5th, 2023. Willow Pines Motel. Room 104, 8:42 p.m. Tyler sat cross-legged on the motel carpet, the vent cover lying beside him like a discarded lid to something long sealed. A faint breeze from the cracked window did little to push back the thick air settling over the room like dust on old furniture. He reached into the gap behind the drywall again. Fingers brushed metal. Another cassette. This one was darker, scuffed, and unlabeled except for a faint 2 scrawled in red ink on the spine. He turned it over, noting the manufacturer, Shoreline Audio, Carson City, Nevada. Then slid it into his portable deck. Deep breath. Click. The tape began to roll. Audio log begins. Tape 2. Unlabeled. Man's voice, the same one from the first tape. He's still not sleeping, still crying at night. Second man, clearer this time. "You're talking too soft. Move the mic closer." First man, annoyed. "This isn't for broadcast." Second man, amused. "Then why are we recording?" First man, "To prove he breaks the rules." Then a child sob, soft and aching. First man, "You can't cry in the princess room. That's not how the story goes. What do we say when we're scared?" Child, barely audible. "The night is pretend." First man, "Say it again." Child, "The night is pretend." Second man, "He sounds like he's ready. Film him tonight." First man, "I need more time." He still calls for her. Still remembers her face. Still remembers her face. Tyler paused the tape. Who was her? Benny's mother? A sister? A prior victim? He hit play again. Second man, stern. "If you delay again, I'll move him to Echo Rock. There are others waiting." First man, quietly. "He's not ready for Echo Rock. That's the last step." The tape cut out briefly, a click, a pause, then another recording starts. This time it sounded like a different room, less echo. The child wasn't crying. Child's voice, quieter now. I was good today. First man. Yes, you earned a story. What kind? Child. One about the world ending. First man. Very good. Tyler's skin crawled. This was scripting, obedience training. The man rewarded silence and compliance with praise. But the world-ending theme kept surfacing, like the child had been convinced he was living in a reality completely separate from the rest of society. That wasn't just grooming. That was isolation, indoctrination. He jotted notes. Echo Rock equals possible secondary location tapes document escalating control tactics. Second man more assertive. Possible leader Harkner or someone higher. August 6th, 2023. Elko County, Nevada. 10:08 a.m. The Willow Pines Motel had changed hands twice since 1984. But the name Marianne Lillis had kept appearing in old business documents, first as employee, then heir. Her father, Gerald Lillis, had owned the motel from 1976 until his stroke in 1998. Tyler found her in a narrow tract house off Route 229, surrounded by junipers and heat haze. The porch sagged in the middle. A wind chime made of bottle caps and forks clinked lazily in the sun. She answered the door before he knocked, holding a mug that said, "World's Okayest Mom." "You're the podcast man," she said, squinting. "I am, Tyler Graves." Marianne was maybe in her early 60s, with sun-worn skin and a smoker's rasp. Her gray hair was pulled into a braid so tight it seemed to stretch her temples. She looked him over like a mechanic checking a car that wouldn't last the season. "You recording?" "Only if you give me permission." She snorted. "Just don't twist my words. Come on." Her living room was cool and dark, despite the desert glare outside. Heavy drapes, a faded lazy boy, framed photos of two grown sons who looked nothing like each other and even less like her. Marianne lit a cigarette. "You said room 104? Tyler nodded, placing his recorder on the table between them. "Specifically October 1984, but I think something was happening in that room long before that." She didn't speak for a moment, just stared at the glowing tip of her cigarette, like she could draw a memory from the ember. Then, "I remember a man. Used to book that room a lot. Never said much. Paid cash. Always had a blue duffel bag. Never let it out of his sight." Tyler sat forward. "Do you remember his name?" Marianne shook her head. "He changed it every time. Shepard, Harmon, Mills. Always some plain white guy name, but I know it was the same man." "How?" She took a slow drag, then exhaled. "He always smelled like the same cologne. Something sharp, cheap, like lemon and antiseptic. And his eyes, one was glass. You notice a thing like that once, you never forget." Tyler's chest tightened. That detail wasn't in any file he'd read. "Glass eye. You said the bag never left his side?" "Never. Carried it to the ice machine. Took it into the bathroom. Set it next to his feet when he sat, like it was alive." Tyler swallowed hard. "Did anyone ever see what was inside?" "Number but once. My dad offered to carry it for him when his keys fell down a drain and he had to bend over. The guy snapped. Real calm most of the time, but that moment, you'd think Dad had tried to open his chest." "What did he say?" Marianne flicked ash into an empty can. "Said, 'You don't touch what isn't yours.' That's all. But the way he said it, like it wasn't a bag, like it was a person." Tyler played a short clip from the second tape. Harkner's voice came through. "You're recording these now?" Then, "Not if you hide them right. I'll put this one behind the vent." Marianne stiffened. "I know that voice," she whispered. "Not the words, but the tone. That's him. The man with the bag." "You're sure?" "I worked front desk 3 summers in a row. You don't forget the weird ones, especially the ones who tip you $10 just to never knock on their door." Tyler leaned forward, recorder still running. "Did he ever come with anyone? Kids? Women?" Never that I saw, but my father once said he thought he heard crying through the vents. He was a light sleeper. Did he report it? Marianne gave a bitter smile. To who? Elko County Sheriff's Office in 1984. They barely took calls from their own wives. Dad brought it up once, and they told him it was probably a TV or a bad dream. Told him if he couldn't handle it, sell the damn place. Tyler clenched his jaw. And did he? Eventually. 1:12 p.m. Willow Pines Motel, room 104. Back in the room, Tyler stared at the wall vent, now just a gaping hole with the shadows curling into it like a mouth. He placed his latest notes on the corkboard. Blue duffel bag, likely carrying tapes or equipment. Glass eye, now physical identifier of the primary suspect. Recurring aliases with matching handwriting, crying heard through vent. Potential hidden room behind shared wall? Then he stood up, crossed the room to the far corner, where the wall between room 104 and room 105 ran. The drywall here sounded different. He knocked. Once. Twice. Hollow. He paced it out. From outside, the building appeared symmetrical. But room 104 was slightly shorter than room 105, by about 3 feet. A discrepancy, a void, a hidden cavity. 3:46 p.m. Tyler's car. Voice recorder. On Marianne Lillis confirms presence of a regular guest who used aliases linked to child disappearances. Consistent bag, consistent behavior, physical trait, artificial eye, reports of crying, hollow wall between 104 and 105, suggests a concealed chamber or crawl space, possibly for observation or storage. Beginning to suspect room 104 wasn't just used, it was built for this. He paused, then added quietly, and I think there's something still inside the wall. August 7th, 2023. Lamoille, Nevada, 11:26 a.m. The house was smaller than Tyler expected. A single-story bungalow tucked between cottonwoods at the edge of Lamoille Canyon. Its mailbox dented, its curtains drawn. The kind of place grief could live undisturbed. Joanne Langridge answered the door wearing a pale yellow sweater despite the heat. Her gray hair was pinned up, her posture erect. Like the decades hadn't bent her, just hardened her into something still standing. Her eyes were tired but alert. You're the one with the podcast, she said. Not a question. Yes, ma'am, Tyler Graves. She nodded slowly. I don't talk to journalists. I'm not one, he said softly. But I found something, a recording. From the motel. Joanne blinked, just once, then turned away from the door without another word, leaving it open behind her. She led him into a small den that smelled faintly of cedar and lemon oil. Family photos lined the mantel, all decades old. Benny, age 7, in a red jacket and bowl cut, smiled from a frame near the center. The same photo that had once run on the local news. I've never moved, she said quietly. Not since he disappeared. I told myself if he ever found his way home, I wanted to be where he last knew me. Tyler nodded, eyes scanning the mantel. Can I play you something? She hesitated. Her hand drifted to the silver chain around her neck, fingers tracing the shape of a small angel charm. I've never heard the tapes, she said. The police took the recorder, said it was blank, but it wasn't. No, ma'am, Tyler said. It wasn't. He cued the first tape. Click, whir, then static. Then Benny's voice. It's cold. I want the nightlight on. You remember what we said about that, Benny? The night is just pretend. Joanne flinched. Her lips pressed tight. She reached for the arm of her chair but didn't stop the playback. The tape continued. Whispers, commands, repetition. Then the chilling line. Now say it again, Benny. This isn't real. The night is pretend. Joanne closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks in absolute silence. After a moment, Tyler pressed pause. Joanne opened her eyes and wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater. "That voice," she whispered. "The man. He sounds familiar." Tyler nodded. "I believe he used the name Shepard when he checked in. But he had other names, Mills, Harmon. He always had a blue duffel bag. Glass eye, soft voice." Joanne went still. "You okay?" Tyler asked. She stood slowly, walked to the mantel, picked up a framed photograph of her and Benny in front of the Willow Pines Motel, the last photo ever taken before the trip turned into a nightmare. "There was a man," she said, "when we got there. I remember now. Benny had a meltdown in the parking lot, refused to get out of the car. He didn't like new places." Tyler held his breath. "I was trying to carry our suitcase and calm him down at the same time. This man came over to help, said he stayed there a lot, carried our bag all the way to the door of 104. Even smiled at Benny." Tyler's stomach turned. Was he wearing a long-sleeved shirt, even in the heat? Joanne blinked. "Yes, and gloves, white cotton gloves. I thought he had some kind of skin condition." "Do you remember what he smelled like?" Joanne's eyes widened. "Lemon. Bleach. It was strong, like he just scrubbed something." Tyler showed her a photo of Reverend Paul Harkner on his phone. A press photo from 1983. Clean-shaven, clerical collar, kind smile. But beneath that smile was something hollow. Joanne stared. "That's him," she said. "Or, if it's not, it's someone who looked and spoke exactly like him." "You sure?" "I remember his voice. Because when Benny went missing and the police were searching the room, that man came back. He stood across the parking lot watching. He had his hands in his pockets. Didn't say a word. Just watched." "Did you tell the police?" "They said I was in shock, that I was remembering wrong, that I was grasping." Her voice hardened. "I was a hysterical woman who lost her child. They dismissed me like static." 1:13 p.m. Langridge residence. Backyard. Joanne stood near the clothesline, wind rustling the dry sheets as they fluttered behind her. Tyler stood beside her, recorder in hand. "I tried everything," she said. "Billboards, psychics. I even paid a man in Reno to douse with a pendulum, but I never left this house. Something in me always knew he was still alive." Tyler hesitated, then spoke carefully. "There's more tapes, and a possible location. A place called Echo Rock was mentioned, like a second step in some kind of grooming program." Joanne turned to him. "Grooming?" He nodded. The man used the phrase princess room repeatedly, even though Benny was a boy. Joanne's face crumpled. "He used to dress up. Sometimes. He loved costumes, capes, hats, anything pretend. He called himself Captain Butterfly one week. I never corrected him. I never wanted to shame him." "You didn't. I should have kept him closer that night." Her voice broke. "I should have locked the window. I should have—" "No," Tyler said firmly. "You were a mother trying to do your best. He was targeted. You both were." As Tyler prepared to leave, Joanne handed him a box from the attic. "It's all I have left. His drawings, tapes, some things from the motel I couldn't throw away." Inside, on top, lay a small red cassette labeled in childish handwriting. "For Mom, room 104. Tyler's hand shook as he picked it up. August 8th, 2023, Willow Pines Motel, 10:06 a.m. Room 105 was being renovated. The door stood ajar, held open by a cinder block. Inside, the air smelled like paint thinner and sawdust. Furniture was stripped down or pushed into corners. The carpet had been torn up, exposing warped plywood beneath. A plastic tarp rippled near the window like a second skin. Tyler stepped inside carefully, glancing around. No one was on site. The clerk had told him the renovation crew came late, around lunch, and didn't care what happened in the morning so long as nothing was broken. He set down his backpack and walked straight to the wall he'd measured from room 104, the shared wall. It looked like any other. Dry wall, faded baseboard, water stains near the bottom. But he knew better. From the floor plan, from the pacing, and from the way 104 felt subtly incomplete, this section of the wall hid something. He pressed his ear to it. Silence. Then a faint creak. Not structural, not settling. Movement behind. Tyler crouched and pulled out his tools. A flathead, a stud finder, a small crowbar. He ran the stud finder along the wall. Ping! He marked a stud, then another, then a 36-inch gap. No stud, no wiring, no pipe. A hollow section, perfectly human-sized. He drew a small X. Then he began to pry. The drywall gave with a dry crack. Beneath it, insulation, old pink, compacted by time. He peeled it back slowly, revealing something buried inside. A sealed wooden panel. The wood was different. Newer than the surrounding structure. Nailed shut with brass tacks. Someone had patched this by hand. He slid the crowbar under the edge and pulled. The panel popped free with a groan of age and pressure. Behind it, a narrow cavity. Dust swirled up, lit by the daylight filtering through slats. And in the small space, between two beams, a box, cardboard, child-sized, water-stained. Tyler's breath caught. He reached inside and pulled it out gently. It was light. Inside, he found a handwritten letter, folded and sealed with Scotch tape, the paper yellowing with age. The outside read, "For Mom, from Benny." He sat back, heart pounding, and opened it. "Dear Mommy, I was good today. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I did the trick. I said the lines and didn't mess up. He says we can go to the store soon. He said I could pick a new toy if I stop asking about home. I'm scared, but I'm trying. I know you're looking for me. I tried to yell, but the wall is thick. I think it's made special." The other man told him to make it thicker this time. He said, "No mistakes like Utah. There's a light in here and a bear. I named him Cactus. I tell him about you. Please find me. I'm right next to the room. I can still hear the TV sometimes. I can hear footsteps. If you knock on the wall, I will knock back. I love you. Love, Benny." Tyler didn't realize he was crying until a drop hit the paper. 11:42 a.m. Willow Pines Motel. Room 105. He replayed the letter twice, recorder on, documenting every detail. Then he crawled into the cavity with his flashlight, scanning the rest of the space. Near the bottom corner, wedged between two studs, he found something else. Cassette reels. Old, unlabeled. 3 of them. 2 cracked, 1 intact. He bagged it carefully. Then he found a sock. A child's sock, red with a faded dinosaur print. And beside it, scratch marks. Tiny, desperate scratches along the wood. Parallel, fingernail deep. A memory carved into lumber. He backed out, hands shaking, and resealed the panel just enough to keep the evidence undisturbed. 1:26 p.m. Recorder log. The wall between rooms 104 and 105 contained a sealed cavity approximately 36 inches wide, 24 inches deep. Within it, a letter written in a child's handwriting and addressed to his mother, describing conditioning, isolation, and efforts to signal for help. Found inside, letter from Benny Langridge. 3 cassette reels, child's sock, scratch marks indicative of confinement. Based on structure, location, and physical clues, I believe this void was used to contain children short-term, either for punishment or concealment. Possibly both. He paused the tape, then added, "They called it the princess room, but it was never about royalty. It was about obedience, about silencing children until they believed silence was their choice." 3:03 p.m. Room 104. Tyler stared at the wall. He no longer wondered whether Benny had been here. He knew. He had written from inside it. The motel wasn't haunted. It was echoing. And the ghosts weren't spirits. They were children. August 9th, 2023. Elko County Library Archives, 9:52 a.m. The rows of microfilm readers hummed softly as Tyler scrolled through decades of forgotten headlines. Dust sparkled in the projector light. Old stories flickered past like ghosts on celluloid.